mentioned the holdout going on with the Jets, because not to make it a dramatic headline thing, but the reality is between the firing of the head coach, between all the headlines that circulate around their quarterback, and then the contract holdout, this guy's almost losing more money than he's going to look to make if he ever wants to play football this season. So at this point, I think that the Lions should make a play for him. I think part of it too is just maybe he's not a fit for the Giants, regardless of being a dynamic player in his own way. So I think that that's something they could definitely look at and probably make an affordable move on. But you got Goff, 315 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. But Tom, it's your guy. It's JW leading that wide receiving room, 76 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. That's through 3 receptions. I know I keep telling everybody to do the math as if like you guys aren't doing the math, but it's just like some of these chunk plays that Williams is doing, and the fact that he's been like your longest reception guy in a number of things for weeks now. This isn't a performance to be high up on. I mean, did you lean on him today like normal?
I did. I also, during the halftime show, I do at 2:30, I spoke about Sam Laporta for a touchdown at plus 210, that he was going to get his first touchdown of the year. And, of course, he comes through on that trickery, reverse, flea flicker type play. It was his only catch, which was good to see. But they're rolling on offense, right? And the fact that Khalif Raymond and Tim Patrick are stepping up to fill a little bit of void. Listen, Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't have the biggest game, only 37 yards. He did catch a touchdown, but his prop, I think, was sitting in the high 60s or low 70s because that's where he should be. And this is kind of one of the things where it's like he didn't need to have a big game. Why? We also saw David Montgomery with 2 touchdowns on the ground. So the Lions, coming off this bye, I spoke about them saying this is a revenge game for them after last season, which we spoke about on Monday and Thursday. I love the Lions with -3. I also did take the Lions -6.5. I altered it, as Joe Lisi would say, I altered it even higher to -6.5 because this was a revenge game for them. They got everything right. They took care of business. It is a mess on the Dallas side of things, especially their defense. They are dealing with a ton of injuries, but it's still a mess.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't know whether to just entirely count them out or what to make of this Dallas Cowboys team. I mean, CeeDee Lamb continues to find some success, but outside of that, I mean, they have a lot to figure out in order to continue to roll. 80-plus yards for CeeDee Lamb, but I can't imagine that his attitude and altitude is going to continue to stride with a team that doesn't have much of a plan for success. Their ground game is non-existent. They brought back Ezekiel Elliott. Donald can only do so much as one guy. So I really don't understand what the recipe is there for them to continue to compete when it comes to this upcoming season. Speaking of some ground game, we did see the return of Joe Mixon with the Texans, which obviously helped accumulate a 41-21 victory, but it was over the Patriots. You got C.J. Stroud, 192 passing yards, 3 tutties, and 1 interception. Mixon on the ground with 102 yards upon his return. Also found the end zone. And then we love a big day for Stephon Diggs, 77 receiving yards through 6 receptions and 1 touchdown. I know it's the Patriots, but what can we make of this Texans team being able to put up 41 points and seem like that sound, well-oiled engine that we saw in the beginning of the season?
Yeah, they're back at full strength. They're firing on all cylinders. I will say it was a little bit inefficient from Stroud in the air, given the fact that, 3 touchdowns, only 192 yards. He did get some short fields due to some of the turnovers. Drake May on the other side, making his first career start, 243 and 3 passing touchdowns. Pretty good from Drake May. Next week, they are in London, and we see the Jaguars as 4.5-point favorites. That's what they opened up as. The Jags are staying in London from this week to play in next. I think that's a very, very interesting game. You have a team in the Jags who are not good, but they are over in London. How much does this travel with a rookie quarterback starting for Drake May actually impact them? I'm not going to say I like the Pats at 4.5, but I kind of like the Pats at 4.5 because I'm not laying 4.5 with the Jags.
No, I think it's too risky with the Jaguars, even though that they're going to be staying there. I think they probably just have a winning record of like 1 more win versus a loss when they do play in London. But again, this team has just kind of been catastrophic. You can't lay much on that. Good shout out for May, though, also with 38 rushing yards through 5 carries. But we know that he tends to be a guy fearless when it comes to using his legs and making those split decisions. So just getting more settled in his role, A, as a rookie, B, with that playbook, and C, with his confidence. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how we continue to see him pushing forward. But big game on the return for Joe Mixon. Big game for the Texans as they get healthier. You're right. Stroud needs to take the next step. We don't want to see him fall back. A couple other games to get into before we wrap up here on Pro Football Today, the post-game show with Kasey Hudson and Tom Vecchio. Make sure you're following SportsGrid over on X. That's at SportsGrid. Most importantly, Make sure you join us for the pregame party tomorrow. But until then, we got one more quick break, so don't go anywhere.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
Back at it with Pro Football Today, the post-game show with Kasey Hudson and Tom Vecchio here on SportsGrid TV, getting ready to close out this Sunday slate. We were just talking about the Texans getting a stronger, healthier roster, coming away with 41 points in their victory today. But another team we should highlight that got a little stronger and a little more healthy before we wrap up here, Tom, has got to be the Philadelphia Eagles. Why? Because even here in New Jersey and New York City, I don't think I've seen more Eagles fans in my life in this area. And they were very excited to beat a Browns team that we've already talked plenty about. So Eagles come away 20-16, but we did see the return of Smith. We saw the return of a number of players who have been banged up. You called the fact that they were listed to potentially participate. So what do we make of this, and how are we going to kind of steer with the Eagles moving forward?
It's good that the Eagles won, but they were 8.5-point home favorites against what most people would consider to be one of the worst teams in the league, and they didn't cover, which is interesting to note. Deshaun Watson still bad. He was more efficient in the second half compared to the first. We also saw Jerome Ford get hurt for the Browns. There's also a note that Nick Chubb is apparently ready to come back from his multiple injuries that he suffered last season. He may be coming back next week. For the Eagles, it's good that they won. They didn't cover. I spoke about this on the Thursday preview show where I said, listen, I'm not interested in saying, I'm thrilled to be betting on the Browns at plus 8.5. But I also didn't want to lay the 8.5 points with the Eagles due to obviously all the trends that we've seen this year with these large underdogs covering and or winning. The Eagles will take this game. I think they will move forward. They're back on track. We did see Dallas Goedert get hurt, but they have Devonta Smith back. They have A.J. Brown back. I think they'll be fine. They obviously need to smooth things out, but they're okay for now.
Yeah, and I feel like, I was reading reports about Sirianni getting into it with a few fans after the game, and I wonder if it's because it really wasn't a clean win it really wasn't a clean win to have some of your weapons back, to have this system that you're running. Obviously, a larger conversation when it comes to Sirianni and company is people are just done with the play calling. They don't think that any of it is any good. But you got A.J. Brown with 116 receiving yards through 6 receptions. You got Smith, 64 receiving yards through 3 receptions. But a slow day for Saquon Barkley, 47 rushing yards on the ground through 18 carries. 18 carries, Tom. Like, how do we even gauge this?
The 18 touches is good. Like, that is a consistent amount that he should be seeing on a week-to-week basis. The inefficiency is not, but, all it takes is for him to break off one of those, and all of a sudden he ends up with like 65 or 70 yards because he breaks off a 30-yard run. So I'd be much more interested in the fact that he has 18-plus touches week in and week out. I'll take a down week knowing that we can work with that volume overall.
Okay. I was going to say usually point out the carries and the volume and the targets most importantly, but I would say that was kind of tough for them because I know that that's kind of been their heavy resting point whenever they struggled to get down the field. But yeah, I think we still saw some struggles from the Eagles today, regardless of getting some guys back. And obviously we saw some drama unwind with that one. Another team, you've got the Steelers that bounced back in it. They were kind of falling behind in that first quarter there. Then they were all in on the second quarter, pulling away with 9 points, and then just continue to roll from there. 32-13, one of the bigger scoring matchups for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know their defense has been probably their strongest point. You got Harris on the ground with 106 rushing yards. What do we make of this Steelers team so far?
It was a good game for them. Like you said, a bit of a slow start. They got going. They were facing Aiden O'Connell, who was a second-year quarterback. Obviously didn't have a whole lot of time last year, starting just a handful of games. Good stuff from Najee Harris, the fact that he was so efficient overall. Finally got his first touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns from Fields on the ground. We did see Russell Wilson active for the first time. I still got to think that they stick with Fields. Like, Fields gives them, I think, the most dynamic option to win. Would you like to see him be more efficient in the passing game? Sure. Would people who bet on the Steelers or fantasy players, would they like to see Freiermuth and Pickens be a little more consistent? Sure, but that's maybe not what we get from the Steelers this season.
Yeah, and you can only ask for so much. We expected the defense to continue to stack where they were, especially with a healthy TJ Watt. But outside of that, we know that they still have some puzzle pieces to solve offensively. But I agree with you. I think Fields is the answer. Nothing against Russell Wilson, but they need to find consistency with sticking with one guy at this point. And that's the only way they're going to continue to find success and roll. But 32-13 being the final over the Las Vegas Raiders. But that is going to be a wrap for myself and Tom Vecchio tonight here on Pro Football, the post-game show. But we're back at it tomorrow for some Monday Night Football, and the exciting part of Pro Football today being the pregame show with me, Tom, Dave Sherapan, and Adam Kaufman. So make sure you join us tomorrow. That's going to be coming in at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So mark your calendars and make sure that you join us back here on SportsGrid TV.